Welcome back. Sorry I missed last week. Had kind of a bad day, and it wasn't like anything bad happened. I just woke up kind of grumpy. Um, I was gonna do a quote unquote quick little monster for us to beat up on. This slime here, and it did not go very smoothly. Very frustrated, already in a bad mood, and it just kind of spiraled out of control. By the end of the day, I liked what I had, but I was not up for streaming, so um, and that bad day has continued on through maybe even the day before yesterday. I haven't been taking care of myself. And sometimes you just don't notice it. You know, development's going good, so you're working really hard, but forget to get out of the house, forget to eat well. And that's basically it. You know, I'm not like sabotaging myself necessarily. Just, anyway. Sorry I missed last week. Modeling this dude wasn't too exciting, but he is cool, I think. I have a fondness for chain chomps from Mario, so I really love just making sure we're alive. Big teeth monsters, basically. The initial enemy from Citadel Deep is like an alligator. They have these big triangle teeth. I don't know. I just love them. So, anyway, I was hoping to get into hit detection, so let's make a quick monster, and then that didn't happen. But we're here today, and we're gonna get this all set up. So, where to begin? So, if you're just doing it by yourself, you could just redo this character, or not redo, but just duplicate our player character, and then, excuse me, work from there. But it'll be cool to set this up too. We'll do that all at once. So I suppose we should just start there. We will go ahead and duplicate her at first. Let's go ahead and do that. Grab her, Control D to duplicate. Spin her around a bit. And gonna go ahead. So this is our other one. I just have an upscaled one there, back there for fun. Little trick. I really wish there was better dragging sort of commands that you could do for the hierarchy view. But if you drag it up into the scene, it'll pop it back down here. Generally, when you drag it from down here and drop it into the scene, it goes to the top. And just depending on kind of where you're working. And then when you duplicate, it drops it back to the bottom. And so it'd just be kind of nice if everything by default went to the bottom. But maybe there's a reason that it goes to the top. Maybe it's a little more user-friendly. And I guess we have the option now. So, but anyway, we're going to duplicate her. Go ahead and call her Slime for now. Actually, use these in Citadel Deep too. I wasn't planning on it, but then I really liked it. And so I was like, yeah, let's go ahead and steal that up. Plus, I made all these animations for it. So, dual purpose is nice. That way, it's all fully animated, which is cool. So, in a sense, I suppose that's going to make this episode more exciting. So, renamed it Slime. Again, we talked about we have our character and offset. I have the hitbox set in here. We're going to do that next. Go ahead and delete that. I don't want to forget. Let's undo that. So we have our draw here. And that's generally like the setup that we had. So let's take that slime here. I call them Slime because I'm very creative. I called it model here. I suppose we could just call it that. It's fine. And just for a refresher, we'll go ahead and drop it on draw. I'm going to reposition all this stuff, so I'm going to zero it all out. I have this character here, and that's for in the game. That's like our final draw position. And then we have offset for doing like shakes and just any other corrections we might want. We might actually do this stuff in draw here. And then model is just sort of, the root of our animator and then our actual like mesh and things like that. So we sort of just duplicated that here with the slime. And so we can just delete her for now. And that's good because we want a new one. But you should see that mostly everything stayed there except for our animator. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. But we want to make sure we're not using that old animator. So that's good. It isn't in there already. Actually added the rigid body and character controller, which we want to remove. Because those live, at least in our setup, up here. We have that up here. Character object, character controller. Where was her rigid body? Did she not have one? I thought we needed a rigid body. Might cause some problems here. But, okay, I'm going to do a quick test here. It seems like that was working fine without... I thought you had to have a rigid body for these on-trigger stay to work. Maybe the character controller counts as one, but I thought you had to add a rigid body. I'm sorry, like, I just tested all this and I was like, spent a lot of time this morning like, getting it all set up so we wouldn't have little things like this. But yeah, we're getting a hit detected, so we should be fine. Cool. I'm actually... What am I trying to say here? There's some issues with rotations when you're doing detections. With like our hitbox here. So down here I have a little debug thing just to detect our hits, which we'll get to more concretely. Trying to stay on. Anyway, it's just I implemented my own like object-oriented bounding box is what they're called, because I was having trouble in Unity with rotations and stuff. Let's say I do this, and it was rotated, you know, this box here, and I try and collide with something, and it wasn't detecting it. It was detecting it only if it was oriented, you know, 0, 0, 0, basically. Well, 0, 0, 1, I suppose, you know, Z forward. Global Z forward. Where were we? Sorry. We have our slime here. We have our character controller, which we want, and then our character object. Character controller is a default Unity thing. We want to set up that actual collider. So this is going to be their physics collider, and it's also going to be our hit detection collider. The reason I didn't like it in Citadel Deep at first is because you can't really rotate these. That's hard to see. Let's try and a better spot here. You can't really rotate these and have accurate detections. It's based on how, you know, the sphere and capsule colliders work, because they're very fast. If you think about, you know, a sphere collider, it's just distance. So you just have two vector threes and you just calculate the distance. And if it's within, you know, its scale, which is just another distance, then it just detects it. And that's why they use like hit spheres in 3D games a lot. You just sort of stack up a bunch of spheres how you want to make a hit box in a traditional sense. And we just detect from there. Because they're so fast, you can have a bunch. And they don't necessarily have like a ton. But there's like a few for like each attack. And there's some issues with that. If you've seen maybe the footage of the Piranha Plant, some of it's, I believe, it was either with the Piranha Plant's attack or with its idle animation. And it was weaving in and out of the foreground and background, just like as an idle animation, and attacks were just whiffing because of that. So I like to maybe do a little bit different. Well, I'll show you both examples. We're actually going to do just a box, and we're going to scale it and rotate it. Anyway, spheres are fast, and that's why they use them in 3D games. You can just sort of stack them up and make sort of an area. So even if you have a bunch, again, it's fast. And capsules are similar. They are just basically two spheres with a little bit of extra calculation between the two of them. That's why if you're trying to like scale them down, you know, you make the height less than the radius, it stops. You can see our height is going down. It's kind of hard to see, but our radius isn't going down really. So, because it's really just two spheres. You know what I mean? You have one up here and one up here, and then a little bit of extrapolation between the two. What I was getting to was if you try and rotate it, it doesn't rotate. And I hated this when I started first making Citadel Deep. But now I actually welcome it, because I have all these effects where the character is rotating around. And what I have is like an actual hitbox, and the hitboxes go way out here, and I thought that would be more dynamic and cool, and in gameplay it is awful. I'm actually going to go back to it, and we're just going to go ahead and stick with that. So even though our character, and actually our rotations are going to happen around here with the character, that's why we have like the offset and stuff. And with our animations, we'll kind of correct that a little bit, and we'll get to that. But basically, we're actually going to welcome this non-rotational stuff. So when we're knocking our character around, it's mostly happening at the visual level, so it's not affecting our effects too much. You know, the position is, we're going to be punching and slicing them around the environment. You generally want your colliders to be pretty huge. The issue can come in where we want this maybe a lot bigger, a little bit higher, just to help with our detection. Still want to make sure you're colliding with the environment okay. And you want some, you know, with like walls and things, you don't want them to be pushing up against it too much, where they're inside of the wall. You know, let's say we go over here, and they're, my gosh, you know, their collision actually happens here, but especially if like they're on the ground and they're maybe a little bit too much inside the wall, so we'll expand that a bit. It gets a little tough because maybe we want a little interaction between our characters, or maybe you can even stand on enemies. So you're gonna have to just sort of work with that, basically. You can have separate colliders, but we want to try and reduce work where we can. So kind of have, you know, just some compromise. You're just gonna have to deal with that. And if you don't have, you know, don't care about those sorts of interactions, then it's fine. But because these are maybe a little more form-fitting, you're going to want your hitboxes to be giant. Like in Aces Wild, they're so huge. I've talked about this before, and people make fun of like other hitboxes in games for being like so inaccurate. And you don't want to, like, you know, there's a limit. You know, you don't want your attacks to just be full screen like everything. But making them very big, like you'll see as we mess around, we're going to have some big hitboxes here. And we can scale this up like this. And, you know, maybe visually, like right here, we're playing, this is going to be like a typical view you'll see. And it's going to look like, you know, we're hitting that slime. But if we really check, you know, maybe if our collider was only up in here, we're not quite hitting it. Looks like in this case we actually are. But you'll get a lot of stuff like this, or maybe, please, you know, this box seems visually like it's hitting, but it's really not. So you can go too big, but err on the side of huge. I wouldn't even say big, but like on pretty big. So it turns out, like when I was doing this video, I was gonna say, okay, let's do the sphere thing like the other games do, because they're fast. It just gets a bit awkward because, I mean, there's a few ways you can do it. You know, you could create some children here. And we'll do a sphere collider. It's built in Unity. And then, you know, we have this to control. You can move this around. You'll see that no matter how we scale it, it stays uniform because that's how the sphere colliders work. And that's on purpose, you know, with Unity. Even though the scale isn't uniform, how the colliders work it's just distance. And that's why they're so fast, like I mentioned. So you would have like sub colliders, just one. And then you make a bunch of them, say like 4, 5, 6, it's going to depend on your game. But then for each attack, you kind of have to set up an array of them right here. So you're kind of looking at that, you know what I mean? You make an array of colliders like that. It just gets a little unwieldy. You may prefer it. It is fast. It's just that you have to determine all this stuff at first. You know, depending on the attack, you could make it so you only detect like the first few, so you only really have to set up one. Anyway, that's just another way to do it. And then in here, you would have like a list. I already have this set up. A list of colliders. That's how I was going to do it at first. And you just, detect those colliders, save them in a list, and then you would have a sub collider script on each one of these. And then you would have your typical Unity on trigger, enter, exit, stay, things like that. And then they would report up. Or you could do an event system with delegates, but I don't know how to do that very well yet. At all yet, actually. And just report that up. Because generally, at least in my experience, if I'm wrong here, let me know. If you have it in a parent, it's not really going to detect it. I mean, even then, it's like, in a child, it's not going to detect it. So if we just had our main script here and did on collision enter, it won't detect it. It only looks at the collider. By default, it only looks at the collider component that's directly on that object. In this case, hitbox. So that was quite the detour. Sorry about that. Let's get back on track because we're going to cover this stuff again. We're setting up our slime here. Do that. So the first thing, let's go ahead and hit play and let's just see what happens. I have a sense of what might happen. And there it is. So, our character is being controlled by our inputs, which isn't necessarily what we wanted. So our first step should be to create a new type of control. So let's do that. As fun as that is, but this is also nice, just being able to control. There's some schools of thought that say design your enemies like your players, like to the full extent possible. And I did that in Aces Wild, but I don't think it's quite necessarily that important unless you really, obviously, the goal is to have like controllable characters, which is one of the goals in Aces Wild, or controllable enemies. Anyway, I used to like hold on to that as truth, like for any type of game, but I don't think that anymore. Anyway, let's go ahead and make a new enum, the public enum control type, and we'll do input. We could do like player. Let's actually do that. And then we can do AI. And then we might have like a sub control type. Generally just having these two types works. And the reason you might want a subtype is like if you have bullets or something, and they only have like one behavior, but really that's still just an artificial intelligence. Like but its only behavior is to just go straight or whatever. And then let's actually set that as a variable. So we'll do public control type. And call it control type. So now on our update, where we update input, I'm going to go ahead and do a switch. We do it. This isn't too important where we set it exactly. Yeah, so let's switch control type. Whoops. Case control type dot player. I usually like to keep them in alphabetical order when possible, but in this case, I just want player first because. And so if we're a player, ooh, that's the other thing. Okay, I'm actually going to undo that. I'm going to put AI first. The reason is because we're going to have, by default, a lot more AI-controlled characters. And you could, just by default, do AI. I like to generally not set stuff in here. I know I did up here with the friction, but that was just because we're doing... the beginning of your game, you're going to have lots of magic numbers. But so let's make our 0 case, our default, even like in the sense of our engine and our scripting language, like 0 is the default. And so everyone's going to be in AI at first. Generally, convention is to have enums all caps. I don't know if that's like super conventional. I know it is for like constants. These are kind of like constants. Maybe they're all exactly like it. There's people with way fuller foundational programming language or know-how than me that probably know this. So anyway, so instead, that we're going to do update input because that's how we control our players. And then for here, we're going to do void update AI. And we'll do that instead when we do that. So let's save all that. And if we hit play right away, we're going to know that everything is defaulted to AI. So just to prove the point, excuse me. What did I do? Did I hit play too fast? I'm a little confused. Oh shit. That's only for, god dang it. Because this happens at any neutral state. So we're going to have to do some clean. Oh, I did not foresee this. So what's happening is that it is skipping the update input, but our input is being controlled. Our input is being detected in more than just update input. So it's actually not too big of a deal now that I think about it, so I didn't set it all deep. So right here, you know, stick help is, you know, being set here. And we're going to change that up. So let's actually make that, instead of stick help, let's just call it control stick or left stick even. Do I have one called left stick already? No, okay, good. We're gonna go ahead and do that. Actually meant to rename that first. Hold on. I did this really bad. Go back to calling it stick help. I'm sorry about this. Let's call it left stick. We can rename it more easily. We could have gone in and done that ourselves, but two stick. So now it's just like a more, I don't want to, well, it is public here, but public variable isn't exactly what I was going for. So now we'll go ahead and take this date input and we will update our stick as well. So that means we're gonna have to do something else for our enemies. You know, update our AI. We're gonna call it a stick, but it's gonna be more of a virtual stick where we aim them, you know, using AI methods. So hopefully, yep. So no one's moving. Let me go ahead and I could have done that during runtime, but I want to make sure it's set for good. Move her around, and we can see that they don't move. I want to correct this dude's a bit. Their collider. There are multiple colliders on there. I'm a little confused. Oh, just the box collider. Okay. Right. 4.15 about. Seems good. So I have a prefab folder. I can't remember if I am. I have a camera. All right. If I had done that on screen or not. On stream, how do we call it? We'll go ahead and drag our slime in here. So now we have a slime as a prefab. And then our player, we're going to update hers because she's changed a bit. Let's double check. And you can see like their collider like totally stops us, and we'll fix that. But it's kind of cool to have, you know, this sort of interaction, especially if we're making more of a Mario-y type game. It would be fun to, you know, climb on enemies. Also note I changed the jump animation, make it a little more fun, I suppose. Can't remember if I did much else. Updated some of the timings on the attacks and stuff. But. So, that's already pretty fun. You know, video games are awesome. All right. So now that is separate, I'm gonna go ahead and start making attacks. So in my games, attacks are they're the most complicated thing about it. You know, each attack has a ton of different variables. Because there's so many variables, at the point of impact, a ton of stuff happens. There's tons of you know, variables, contingencies and things. So you could make it sort of its own event. So in Aces Wild, I made it pretty generic. I didn't have like an attack. I just sort of had, you know, our actions, and then I just turned on hit active or whatever, and then set a bunch of variables in my sort of default. You know, again, it was all hard coded, so it wasn't really, you know, a state system like I have here. I mean, it was, but it wasn't data driven. It was just all hard coded, which is bad. So really, you could, you know, we could make a new script, just called attack, and you may prefer that. I was kind of hoping to make our event system more dynamic, where each event we'd have a generic event base, and then we could set what variables are in that. And that way only the things that we wanted would show up. And if we do that, you could make an attack script and then just have it really complicated. But for the sake of brevity, as much as it'll be, we're going to just make it a new class. And because it's data, we can correct that in the future. We can go through and if we make our event system and want it that way, you know, make our event system more robust like that and want attacks included in that, we can go ahead and just use data to, you know, copy it on over. It would be trivial almost. I mean, it would take a few minutes, but. So instead, again, for the sake of brevity, we're going to go ahead and just make a new class for now. Go into our scripts. Actually created this hitbox one. We will set that up in a minute. Script. And we'll call it attack. You even call it like attack event if you wanted. When possible, I like it to be as short as possible. You know, so it's easier to type and easier to remember, unless it's necessary that you have, you know, say there was two types of attacks for some reason. One is an attack event and one is like an attack action. But our actions are called states, so we're just going to not worry about that. Have an attack. It's actually not a mono behavior. Go ahead and delete all this. And right away, we're going to have some overlap, and that's why it's going to be a little maybe gross overlap with our events, because we're going to have like a start. And a length. And then we will have a, I mean, you would have damage and stuff like that, but really for me, the physics of it is the fun part. So we're going to have our hit Annie, which is the animation that it'll invoke in the victim. And then we have our hit direction. We call it knockback, actually, which is a little more standard term. And then another important one is a hit stun, so how long they will stay in that state when they get hit by that. Other thing is we're going to go ahead and have a transform and call it the hitbox. So that way, for each one of these attacks, we can have, the hitbox that we need. Take a sip of tea here. So now we're going to go into our character state. Ooh, that was really bitter. Left my tea bag in there too long. Oops. Oh, I'm making a mess. Sorry. And so we have our states here, and we have state events, and we have character scripts and things like that, like we had before. So now I'm seeing if we wanted, we could put this in the same file, but it's not too important. We do want to serialize it now that I'm looking. Kind of serialize everything. Some people say against that, will be against that, but I'm really not. It is actually really nice to just kind of serialize everything and then prune away like what you don't need when you start doing like saves, save files and stuff. And for data, you're just going to want to serialize it anyway. That's maybe a moot point. So, what am I getting at? Some of this stuff and confusing myself. So character state. So we have a list of events, and now we want a list of attacks. And you can kind of see both sides of it. So how this is going to be very specific. We're gonna need like all this stuff. And in the case of my own game, we maybe want these to display a lot differently than our events, like in our editor. So maybe it's okay that we make it a separate class, but it's going to be your call. I should call it attacks for plural. It's a good little naming convention to use plural when there's a list. I don't know if that's just a personal one. Do that. Record data. It also have attacks now. And I did it in... Oh, okay, cool. So here's our events. Here's our attacks. If it's empty, that's good. We don't want anything. Go ahead and /1/test. I think I changed that a little bit. Go to our attacks. Go ahead and add one. And we're going to have to make some estimates until we start, fine-tuning it. So one of our front velocities happens right at 10, which I think is about our impact. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll make it last about 3 frames. Hit stun isn't too important. My default is 60 for enemies and 30 for the player. We won't need to worry about too much. And actually, with my own system, this should have been, and what we'll probably do here. You could make it 3-dimensional. That would be a handful more animations you'd need to make. And when I say animations, I just mean poses. We're going to be using single animation frames and then blending between them. For now, let's just do vector 2, excuse me. Negative X is left, positive X, and we actually haven't implemented this yet. But if we look at our attack, she sort of swings down, and it's pretty diagonal. So we're going to go ahead, go to the right, and go down. So, negative X is left, and it's going to be relative to the player. So she's going, diagonal down to the right. And you could make this dynamic. You could easily detect, have some sort of detection for what typically is going to be the attack, and just look at the previous frame, and like if it was on the impact frame, you saved the previous frame where the position of the knife was or whatever, and whatever that new position is, you could just create that that vector offset, the difference between the two. Problem is that as she follows through, you don't always know for gameplay reasons like where that impact's going to happen. So if it was from that previous frame to here, maybe that would look okay. But for gameplay and game feel reasons, you may want your impact to be here, which is what I do a lot. Even in fighting games, you'll see that a lot. And so your new trajectory would actually be sort of knocking the enemy forward, so that can, maybe don't want that. And then the knockback, again, this is relative to the player. So this is left and right, this is up and down, and this is front and back. So we'll just make a simple one. Let's actually look at our events again. And we did front velocity, 0.4. So that seems like a good one. These numbers are just going to be sort of, actually make it a little bit more intense for fun. These numbers are just things that you're going to have to figure out. You know, we're just going to be fine tuning it. That's game design. So, and that all saved, which is great. So just got to think about it. I forgot to do something. What we want to do, I'm going to go ahead, load up Citadel Deep. What we want to do is create a little tool with our hitbox script too. And what I mean by a tool is it's going to let us set up, because in our data it's just a transform. We could do a game object, but even then it's like, what I'm talking about is for our hitboxes. Even then it probably wouldn't let us do it very easily, or any more easily. So what we want to do, make a little tool that lets us, where did I put the player? Almost confused. And it is not on there. How is it not on hers? All right, whatever. Really? Oh, I was looking at the wrong one. Okay. I was looking at their hitbox for like their self, not their attacks. So. And that is nothing. That's just the base script. I should probably get rid of the update and stuff. Where is it just in my editor one? Gosh, I'm sorry. Character scripts. I just forgot where this was. Here it is. So this is going to be a little tool that we use to apply some stuff that we're just doing in the normal editor and then add it to our data with the click of a button. There's probably some better ways you can do it, but this is what we'll be doing for this one. Whoops. So this inherits from editor, and just like our serialized, our indexed item attribute, it's going to look at something that has the hitbox tools, and then it's going to have like a custom editor thing here. And so we're just going to copy all these over because it's going to be easier. We'll go through it, but just for ease of it. I totally forgot. I meant to set this up earlier. So we already have our editor folder, which is what Unity looks at when it's in editor mode, and we'll just like set up all these scripts for us. So we're going to go in our editor, go ahead and just drag that over. Add that to ours. You can see action object doesn't exist because our naming is a little bit different. And then we have hitbox tools, and that's just in our scripts. And that is a mono behavior, so we can attach it to game objects. But it really doesn't do anything. That's just a way for us to detect it. Our hitbox script actually is going to do stuff, so it'll be a little more, I don't know, elegant? Who knows? I don't know what word I wanted there. Tools. So we're actually going to maybe not even use this now that I think about it. So let's go ahead and Oh yeah, this doesn't even do anything, so it's not that important yet. Alright, this is a bit clumsy, I'm sorry. Editor is what I'm looking for. Inspector tools. So instead, we're going to go ahead and just make it of hitbox rather than even hitbox tools. We're going to go ahead and delete hitbox tools. We don't need it. Reload it all. And go through all this. Hopefully I can just close down Citadel Deep and take a look at our hitboxes. So, you know, we have our attack, but we want to be able to detect that attack. And we're going to be using a hitbox. So what we do is on our character, we actually look at our player. Our character is what actually rotates when we, you know, our character faces different directions when we're moving and stuff. So this character transforms what's actually moving around. And so we want to put our hitboxes on there. So it's right there. Remove that. I just put a box collider and we make it trigger. So how you do that is go here, add component, box collider, make it a trigger. And we'll go ahead and zero these out for now. Not too important. And then we add a component, this hitbox script, which we will design now. So we'll make it a mono behavior, so it, because it's going to need to update and it's going to need, you know, on trigger stay. So again, at first I thought I was going to have this list of sphere colliders, which you could do. So you, if you needed to manage them, you'd make a list here, have them detect all your sphere colliders and your children, and just assign it to that list. And then my understanding would you'd need like a sub collider script on each one of those, and that would help you just so like manage them and like design them in the editor, like move them around and stuff. But we don't care about that. We're gonna try it this way. Go ahead and get rid of that. So basically what we did first is just this. I mean, we haven't done it what I did, but what we're gonna do, ignore this up here first, is on trigger stay. It's a built-in Unity thing. I thought I had that up. You know, if you ever need help, of course, just type in, you know, collider Unity or whatever. You know, the documentation is really nice for Unity. So there's 3 messages, or there's more than that, a handful of messages. 3 types, I guess is what I meant to say, because there's enter, exit, and stay. And then there's for triggers and on actual collisions, which is when 2 hard bodies or rigid bodies collide. And how you use those is that you just put them in the script. It's built in, even though like when you make a new mono behavior script, it's not, you know, it just starts with start and update, but there's others, you know, there's like awake and things like that. That will be called through the Unity event system, I believe. They're called messages. So in here, see that we need on trigger stay, and we need to pass the other collider. We go and do that, collider, other. And what I also do is if other, you know, the incoming collider on trigger stay, when this happens, so when this other collider hits us, we're the trigger. So we need to make sure, you know, that we're a trigger here. If other.gameObject is not equal to our transform root.gameObject, so the transform root, our transforms right here, the root is the very top level one. And I just know that that's where our character object is. You can do other things, you know, as you're setting up your prefab, if you just set where your hitbox is to sort of detect that. And in fact, we do it right here. But basically, this works for now, so we'll go ahead and do that. We may want to do it for on-trigger enter as well. On-trigger stay doesn't necessarily update that consistently. If we run into problems, then we'll fix it. We're just going to do this for now, so we only have this one thing to worry about. So if it's not ourself, is what this means, then we'll detect a hit. Because on our character, our hitboxes are going to be big and crazy. We're going to want it to hit behind us just a little bit for gameplay reasons. Just so those aren't being detected. Speaking a lot, and we've been busy at work, so I've been speaking a lot of work and not used to talking that much. I'm an introvert, so I have this hitbox script, and we go ahead and patch that there. This isn't updating because we have some problems in our inspector tools. So let's go ahead and just do this for now. You can see, nothing is showing up on our hitbox anymore. Because what we did, so if we were starting from the beginning, we'd go to our editor folder, has to be in here, create script, and that would bring this up basically. It would actually be a mono behavior. So we'll go ahead and call it an editor script. And what has happened is now, and we put this attribute here. So custom editor, type of hitbox. So whenever there's a hitbox, it's going to do a custom editor. It's going to look at this info here to decide how it draws all that. So when we go in here and go to our hitbox, that has not updated for some reason. I don't know what happened there. It seems to be okay with it. I guess the default is drawing for some reason. Oh, I guess because we're not calling it. So generally, you need like, what am I trying to say here? Anyway, I don't know why that happened just now. But our first thing is to do on inspector GUI. So go ahead and edit all that out. And then go ahead and delete that. I'm going to do it this time. All right, cool. So now nothing is being drawn because this will override, public override void on inspector GUI. So normally in Unity, this is being called, but we're doing our custom editor. So it's whenever this hitbox is being drawn in the editor, this hitbox script, it's going to do this whole new thing for us, which is great because we want to have some new stuff on it. We can do this, draw default inspector, excuse me, go ahead and pull that out. And now it's going to do the default. We're going to want to set it. Do we need to do that? Well, it's only for editing. So there's this part down here that we'll get to, because what we're going to be doing is modifying our core data, right? That's going to be our target. And we need to save that. So there's like this stuff down here that we have to set. And if you don't do that, it will stay running okay. You even hit play a few times and it's going okay. And all of a sudden, all that goes away. Like all the changes that you made. Because they weren't actually saved. So anyway, sorry, I know there's a lot going back and forth. But it's important. So we'll go ahead and draw the default inspector. Let's go ahead and assign that our hitbox that we're going to be working with. So hitbox, let's call it H equals hitbox. We're casting it because there's a default target that happens for all inspector draw, like inspector target. It's like the base sort of Unity editor thing. So whenever you're clicking on anything, that's the target, right? And then even more specifically, it's the component. And in this case, we cast it as a hitbox I believe they probably, I would guess, that they inherit from a really basic class, like object or something in Unity. And go ahead and do that. So now I have a hitbox. That's our target that we're going to be sort of clicking on. Like that's what we're inspecting in the editor. But then we need to assign, our actions that we're actually going to be editing, like the data. So now we need to find a way, which is the part I hadn't thought of yet, to look at those, to look at what we're editing specifically. Here's where it can be improved. I don't often use these tools too much. I generally find like a default hitbox size that's good and then just do some tweaking, like by just looking at the variables. But when there's one that like really needs some help, then I do this. That's going to depend on what you find helpful anyway. Let's go ahead and define a new state. Just call it st. Oh, I had it set up here. That was the issue. So public character state, and we'll just call it state. And then state equals, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Editor GUI layout, GUI layout, dot object field. So this is a built-in Unity thing that you're probably very familiar with. That will let you just drop in objects. What's the matter? Oh, these aren't objects. Okay, so what I actually meant is, excuse me. I'm going to call it core data because that's actually what we're going to be grabbing. Because this has to be some sort of object, and our core data is an asset object. Sorry about that. I got ahead of myself. This was one of the reasons I kind of moved away from having like a core data thing. That way I could just sort of grab whatever object type I wanted. But in the end, I really do find it to be helpful to just have this one thing to look at. We're still going to want that state to edit. And so now we're going to want to do is core data dot character states, and we're going to do have an index. It's going to look at the core data, look at our character states, and then find like the state that we want to change. So here's where we need to actually like search that. So how we do that, actually do it first so then it sets it later. Our state index equals editor GUI layout. So here again is where it's maybe a little more hoops you have to jump through because it's all stored like in this one block. Instead of just throwing like a character state object onto this script, we're going to have to search for it a little bit. It won't be that hard. And there may be better ways of doing this. Actually, I would feel like there is. It is a pop-up. And it's our state index. And the options are core data dot. Whoops. Get state names, which is one we set up for our, indexed objects, which I suppose, hold on, if that's already set up, Didn't we do that in commands? So if those are already indexed, let's see. You know, because we made them an indexed item. So if it's just in there, we could just do this, which makes me a silly goose because let's just do that instead. So basically what I'm making is the exact same thing. You do a pop-up and you get a list of names based on, should be the list of the things you're looking up, and then it grabs an index of that. But what we have is just that already. So because we made these indexed items, can we not have that? Oh, whoops. Yeah, we don't need that. So let's see what happens here. So I deleted that. We have our state index, and then this actual state is going to be, well, we should have that still, excuse me. Is what we're going to be editing. Let's make sure that all works. Got our hitbox, and there's no core data yet, so we should make that find the core data when possible. Go ahead and add that. You can drop it in if you need to. For some reason, didn't like that. It's not liking that. Go ahead and just do that. Still not liking it. Can you not? Sorry. The errors are gone. Even though we're drawing the default inspector. Does that not work with? I feel like it's lying to me because these should be serialized too. Yikes. Man, maybe we should hit this at the end. Let's just get to the hit detect. I mean, we're almost there. Just I don't think this would be so budged up. It's not showing that at all. I don't understand that. When we draw the default inspector, it should show all this stuff. I thought. But it's not even showing this stuff anywhere either. What did I do wrong? Does this have to be serializable? That seems weird. Can I do that? Am I gonna cause a problemo? I didn't do nothing. That's very strange. Yeah, something very strange is happening because that's not even showing up now. I feel like this happens sometimes, and maybe there's just something I'm totally not missing, but I'm not getting any errors, but I believe that there's like some errors happening. So we're going to close that up. Go back in here. Oh my gosh. I know what is going wrong. I got ahead of myself. And it may be obvious to some of you. This isn't changing because it's draw default inspector is drawing the default things here in the hitbox. So what we could do, or maybe this is the right call, is put it in our hitbox. And it seems to know how to grab this by default, which I appreciate. I'm not sure how it knows that. I forgot how we set it up. But that's why we set those things up. I'm sorry, it's such a big flub. But this is how you can set it up to set what the action we want to change. So anyway, back to that. Looks like we don't even need court data necessarily, but I feel like maybe we do. Anyway, it seems fine. Go ahead and pop these back up. Don't need our target. Don't need that action. So the next step is to just have a button, and then we'll have that button do stuff. So how you do that is you make it an if statement because they are bools. And this is something that's actually really powerful. And people who've done a lot of GUI stuff, or even like, I mean, it's still GUI or UX design for like older, like not older, but like office type programs, I guess. You see this a lot. It's really cool, and it's something I don't do enough, I feel. I mean, maybe it just doesn't come up, but you make, your methods bools. So what that means is that if you click it, then it'll do something. And that's a built-in, Unity thing, this one. But that's how you do it. So you do if GUI button layout, and then you just give it a label. So that's what will show up here. Apply a hitbox. And what happens when we click that is it will go into our attack. So what we do is we're going to define that attack. So we need to find that attack by going to our state that we defined. Dot attacks. Attack event index, which, where is that even? Oh, I just had that from beginning, so. A little bit weird. Was that one edited out? Yeah. So that's just some old code that I meant to edit out in my old. Because what we want to do is just go through all of our attacks. You may only want one. And there might be a way for you. What am I getting at? So let's say you have a multi-hitting move. You have like a big haymaker or a big like sweeping slash. And you want it to hit multiple times. Each hit does like 10 damage as it's like cutting through. Do you know what I mean? And so you'll want like separate attacks for that. And that's why we have a list of them. So instead of, defining that, we need to go through all of our attacks. So for int I equals 0, I is less than our state.attacks.count. And you could do for each if you liked. Our current attack, we'll call it ATK, is equal to our state.attacks I. So we, define that. And in my old code, I had it So these are all sort of separate. I didn't have them as transforms. So this is going to be a little bit different. So what we want to do, and I accidentally deleted an important part where hitbox h equal to oh my gosh, my nails are kind of long. It's making me hard to type. So we cast that. So we have our hitbox. So again, the target is the thing we're actually inspecting. We cast it as a hitbox. And so we look at that. We look at our attack. Do attack dot transform hitbox transform, right? Position equals, we should maybe do local position just in case. It shouldn't matter. Equals h dot transform dot local position. We may run into an error here, or maybe we need to do it. Looks like it works okay here, so we'll go ahead and keep it that way. I generally don't use rotations. You may want it, like if you want some like a diagonal sort of attacks. So we're going to sort of just ignore that for now. And we do it with scale as well. And then we want to set our core data as dirty. We still haven't. Actually grabbed our core data from here. It's getting access to it somehow through the attribute. So I'm trying to remember how it actually finds this. Is it really just, that seems a little bit wrong. I mean, we could just set it in here. It's just kind of annoying to grab it every time. Thought this would come to me faster. What am I missing here? Sorry about this. Okay, there it is. There it is. This is what I was looking for. So we need to find that. And because we only have one type of core data, you're gonna maybe want to start making backups, like automatic backups. Well, mine did every time it loaded, and every time it exited, and every time I hit play, it just copied that and made a backup. So that's just something you may want to consider. But then I also like back up the whole project every other day or so. What you would do is you would, this is T colon means it's looking for the type of core data. And then the next step would be, to check to make sure that asset's name is just core data. And then your backups would have like backup on it. So it wouldn't, because it's going to find all of these and then just grab the first one. Or actually it probably goes through each one here, but we only have one, so it doesn't matter. But now our core data actually means something in the case of the hitbox here. We did this in a previous episode, but basically it's an asset database static script or method to find assets of core data. And then core data equals, what it's actually doing is finding these IDs, and then it looks at the database again and loads that asset. if it's null. So it's only going to do that once while we're in here. So if we go now, sorry, that took a while. Back to our core data. Kind of wish I had it in there. And we're going to look at our attacks. Oh, we made it a transform object. That might have been a mistake. I'm starting to realize that maybe that's why I did that. Because what you could do in this case is you can make a ton of prefabs if you like it, and you can just drag these prefabs in here. So yeah, we need to change that. That's my mistake. I was thinking it'd be easier just to make it a transform, but it's not. Box size, or you do scale. Position. I don't know why position comes first. It doesn't matter, but I care. Then we go back to that. Box position, local position. My hope was that it would just be easier in the end when we're, even though it wouldn't be that much easier. It's fine. This works. So by default, these are all zeroed out. So now, we're looking at our slash test. We have our hitbox here. We pull it up on any hitbox. It's going to assign this core data stuff here. And it's only going to have that loaded when we're in editor mode, which is great. That's what we want. And we have this hitbox here. So let's go ahead and actually do stuff with it. Scale it out. Whoops. This is going to be the hitbox of our slash attack. And you can do this at runtime as well. Again, editor runtime in the editor is still editor time. So it'll show up. Again, you want them pretty big. And we want it on slash test. So we'll go ahead and apply hitbox. And there's it's mad about something. It should have some attacks, so I'm not sure what happened there. Let's go to our states. It's not saved. Not sure what the deal is. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. It says here. These didn't change. Run it again. That time it wasn't meant. Oh wait, yeah, I did it again. Damn it. Well, shoot. So either state hasn't been defined, which looks like it has not. That's my bad. Character states, and then it is that state index. And that state index is actually our target hitbox dot state index. That way we could do it, use the index, the item attribute. Spectre attribute, I don't know. Some whatever they're called, attributes. So this time, and this is still set here because this is just in the editor. To run slash test, apply hitbox, no errors, looking cool. Let's go ahead and go here, and you can see our position and scale and stuff all got set here. I know that was all really abstract, but in the end, it's really neat. There might be ways, if there's when it was a transform, you saw that it was empty, right? Um, and I just don't know if there's a way to hold on to that kind of data object types when they're like just in sort of scriptable objects like this. So it would be nice, and maybe there is, because it would be nice if we could just sort of click on that hitbox from here, and just sort of scale them out. Um, Again, you don't need to do that if you want. If you just get comfortable with some variables, it's just like 5.4, 5.5. Seems good, ahead a little bit, 2.5. You get used to that, and that's great, right? So we're going to go ahead and zero this out, or, neutral it out. Save that. Again, our core data is set to dirty, and then the asset database saves all the assets. Again, if you don't have that, you're going to be going along, and this is going to work fine for even hours or something. I don't know how often it updates. Maybe not that long. But, you're hitting play or stop. But if you close out or just, a while later, this gets reset because it didn't actually save to the hard disk or wherever it is. Sorry, I'm not super familiar with all the terminology, but sorry if anyone's been in the chat. Take a quick look. Nobody. So now that that's set, we need to actually make that happen. Let's go to our character object. Do update state during our state. Whoops, just F12. Nope, shift F12. Nope. State events. So for each event. Sorry, that was my phone. If you heard that. Then we're gonna want to do void update. We could call them state attacks. It could just be attacks, but so after updating our events, we'll go ahead and update our attacks too. We're going to go ahead and basically copy this. Again, this is where we're getting some of that overlap. So instead, for each state event, we're going to do for each attack. Attack. So within our core data, character states, current state, which we already set up in a previous episode, we're going to go through our attacks instead. Attack is what I meant. And I did length. And here it's end. Whoops, we don't do that. So what I like to do is instead, once it equals attack.start, then I have a new variable for the character. I call it hit active. Whoops. And you can make this a flag if you wanted. I like to do it. I mean, there's some pros and cons either way. It all comes out the same in the end. And just count that down each frame. So that way, when attack.start happens, we set hit active to attack. Whoops, equals attack.length. And this is a float, and this is an int. Probably want to make this a flow for now. Anyway, we're gonna, in the end, I want to hope to start doing float-based time instead of like frame-based time. We will learn that together, hopefully. Go ahead and get rid of this. So here, what we also want to do is, because we don't want this, because if it's current greater than or equal to. The reason we have that is because when we start messing with our time scales, like dynamically during gameplay, we might not hit that state time as predicted. So maybe you want a little bit of catch there. Generally, we should be okay. Let's go ahead and keep it that way. So if current state time equals attack.start, the reason greater than or equal is in case we miss that. But the problem is that then hit actives becoming attack.length a whole bunch. Sorry, my phone keeps ringing. I'll go ahead and answer real quick. I have a lot of like doctor stuff going on right now. Not like bad things, it's good things. So that normally I don't answer my phone unless I know the number, but it's just a lot of new things in my life, so sorry about that. Anyway, we'll just go ahead and do it this way for now. And so hit active means there's an attack active. And that's going to be one of the core, or one of the initial checks we do when we're determining our attack collisions. So once we hit that, attack.start, we hit active, and we set it to the length. And then we just count down hit active every frame. So do we have a... do attack stuff. Call it plural there. And so we want to do hit active equals 0 when we start a new state. We could do it on end state too, but again, instead of deep, I ended up getting rid of end state. I don't remember why we stuck with it here, but I'm not going to change it now until I know what it's doing. So that way, every time we do a new state, hit active equals 0. So any like sort of trailing attack information that remains on the player, and we're actually going to hold on to a lot of it just in our data. And then any dynamic stuff we'll just calculate later when we actually do a hit. Right, that was all really abstract, but just trust me. Oh, right, and so probably going to want a update timers. Void update timers. Again, we could do a flag. But then it's like when we're updating our attack, we have to like end the attack. I mean, that works too. And maybe this is better. You know what? I'm going to do the other one just because it's not what I did before. I'll go ahead and keep hit active as a variable instead of a flag. And then we'll do a check where state time equals attack.start plus attack.length hit active equals 0. And so kind of doing best of both worlds. It's basically a flag right now, but in case I don't like how this works, if we run into some errors. So what happens is that we go through the attack, and if attack.start plus attack.length, and we could do like +1 here probably. No, actually, I suppose we should do it like this. We, end the hit active. And so okay, I already said that. Couldn't remember if I did that or not. And it's also, I keep doing that. For each is also nice because we don't necessarily have to determine if attacks have been initialized yet. Because in a lot of our things, we won't have attacks. Like our jump, there's no attack. And, maybe it hasn't even been made into a list yet. It's just the variable. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though you can do list and you gotta do new list and then you set the size. And you know what I'm saying? We go through that. So now, really get into the meat of it. So, what's happening? Actually, I also want to set that hitbox at this point. That's what I meant to do. And we need to, have I set that? I have not. So I don't need a way to look at, to hold on to this hitbox. It's a little bit different than how I did it in Citadel Deep, so I have to think a little bit. But for sure, we need a way to hold on to that variable to talk to it. There's, again, you could do it with delegates and events, and maybe it's better, but I don't know how to do it. So, like hitbox, and just call it a hitbox. You could call it attack box, or, you know, the common parlance is hitbox and hurtbox, which I hate, although it is descriptive, and it's not like it's bad. I hate it for some reason. So anyway, set the new variable. So when this happens, hitbox dot transform. Sorry, forgot. This one's like actually an object. And it's already parented to us, so we generally don't have to mess with the rotation. But it's going to be equal attack dot hitbox scale, and then hitbox dot transform dot. And you could do, like in Aces Wild, I had an animation editor, and there's like each animation frame had like sprite data and hitbox data, and you could do that if you wanted. Anyway, that's just another way to think about it, I suppose. Got local position equals attack.hitbox position. So now, you know, in our editor, we use this hitbox to, you know, as a tool to define, you know, so we can see visually what we're putting in our data. And then at runtime, when an attack happens, it looks at this data, because this hitbox is going to be changed a lot when we do new attacks and things. We're going to have different sizes. When an attack happens, it looks at that data that we saved in the core data and sets this hitbox through the character script here, which I actually need to do. Go ahead and set that hitbox. Where did it go? Oh, I haven't saved it yet. Let it go. Cancel. I don't know what I did. Not save this yet. Good. There it is. And you wouldn't even necessarily need this to be a hitbox. It could just be a game object. I don't know if it matters in the end, because by default the game object will, because we're messing with the scale and stuff, so it doesn't. It'll do. That's sort of like a default behavior. Maybe this isn't even worth mentioning, but let's see if any of this works. Right now our hitbox is looking like that. Run around, jump a bit, go back to our scene, go on our hitbox, hit F to focus on that if you need. And we'll go ahead and hit our attack. Back to our scene, and you can see it set it. So that's wonderful. Go ahead and reset it manually just real quick. Because you don't need to update all the time, because we're going to look at hit active for determining that stuff. You know, when it should happen exactly. But we're going to go ahead and be double sure by go to the game, hit the attack, Then we're going to step through, make sure it happens on that frame we decided, which is frame 10, which is perfect. I was like the exact frame I set it on. And you may want it to hit early, and that's game design. We're going to see how it feels and how it looks. So that's awesome. I am glad that worked out so good. Now we need to actually do those checks. So now we have our hitbox here on trigger state. Right now we just have a debug.log hit, so we record that there's a hit. We're probably going to be going back and forth and tweaking this a bit, sort of changing how we actually detect this. Because we could go to the character object and do the same thing. What am I trying to say here? We're gonna have to figure this out. It's just I'm not quite sure the best way to do it, because how I did it in Aces Wild is I have a list of all the character object in the scene, and I just compare them because I did my own detection. I haven't actually used on trigger stay in my own game, but I intend to go back to it because I think it's faster. One of my biggest choke points with performance is doing these object-oriented bounding boxes that I mentioned, because I wanted to be able to rotate, and just calculating those is actually pretty performant heavy. Actually, performant is a positive word, so it's pretty, I don't know, maybe that was okay to say it that way, but I have a cashew here real quick. The issue I run into is that I only want to detect it when we're hit active. So I'm not sure if we can, because I mean, this is fine to always call this. I mean, it's built into Unity. Maybe it's okay. But I kind of just wish it wasn't always calling this, you know what I mean? Maybe there's a way to do it, but I don't know. We can activate our hitbox maybe, but that can be slow. It can actually be pretty... activating, deactivating scripts can be a little... You might have to do that because of the collider. I don't know, maybe it isn't. We could try that. It's really not that important. You know, optimize last, as I always say, as many people often say. It just feels a little weird to always have this on and then just sort of... Sorry, I'm just thinking a bit. I just wanted to... There's a better way to do it, but... Well, while I think about it, we're going to go ahead and do our get hit event, which I mentioned in my previous games. Make it public is one of the most complicated events, methods, functions, whatever. Of ourself, generally going to have the attacker. So we're going to go ahead and call him attacker. And so for a basic thing is that we're going to go ahead and just set our velocity. Did I set that? Is it not public? Really just do it like that? From velocity, I suppose, is what I had. I thought I had like a plain set velocity script. No? Cool. So I'll go ahead and make that real quick. Maybe it's not that important to have it a separate script, but why not, I suppose. 3v velocity equals v. Maybe that is just sort of a pointless script. But what we're going to do is, you know, if we get hit by an attack, then we're going to set that knockback to that velocity and then sort of make it relative to the direction of the attack. And in a lot of my games we have sort of different types. You can make it radial, so it really, even though you might have sort of a frontal direction for the attack, if they're off to the side, then they sort of get pushed off to the side. But you may want it where it's just very literal, so it's no matter where the victim is compared to the attacker, they get sent in that I can't think of the word, explicit direction from where they are. And I also often have it so there's a bit of correction, and that may be a third type, which I often do, where they sort of, if they're off to the side, then they kind of get pushed into the line of sight of the attacker, especially for the player. A lot of games, and I've mentioned this before, will instead use like homing. So the player sort of will always sort of want to aim at the target. And, playing Bayonetta again just a few months ago, it was like really irritating. Not that game is bad, it's awesome. And that's a preference thing, I think, maybe. It's something I particularly didn't like in it, even though it's one of my favorite games. But there's pros and cons to it. But anyway, getting ahead of myself here. So what we want to do is we'll look at our attacker. Let's just go ahead and get right to it. So set velocity, and we will look at the attacker. Actually, it's going to be, go ahead and set a current attack equals attacker dot state. Oh yeah, and we're going to want a variable for what attack is currently active. Update attack. Excuse me. Update. So I'll do public and current attack index. Be a little more explicit. Attack index equals. Ooh, so that's another reason to do. I guess we can just have a counter. This is really getting hacky. Sorry. And current equals current and then current plus plus. This is fine. And so what I did, normally, or not normally, but if you're doing a for loop, then you have this counter that goes up by default. Most sorry. Generally by default. But we just do that here. It's essentially the same thing. And so that way, because if we have multiple attacks, then we need to know what attack to look at. So it's good to store that on the attacker. We'll go back to get hit. Current state. Do we have a current state? So we gotta do game engine dot current dot core data. Is that? It's the current one, right? I thought we had a current. Sorry, just checking on something. This is what we want. Go ahead and copy that. And you can see if we're calling this a lot, maybe we should set this to a variable too, like our current state. Actually make it a character state so that we're not looking at it. And actually in this case we're looking at the attacker, so. Attacks, and it's going to be attacker. Attack index. Because again, we're going to be looking at a lot of data here. It's actually attacker.current state. So the current attack is, because the get hit script happens like on the victim. That's how I set it up usually. So now we have this current attack, and we can just do current attack dot knockback as an easy way to do it. This will just be a way to test it. And then, because what we're wanting to do is we're going to do a look rotation. So it's going to rotate the vector 3 of the knockback, and so that way it's relative to our attacker. So despite that little sojourn, well, it's a necessary sojourn, I still don't know how exactly I want to do it. So this is really slow, but I guess we'll just do it. Character object, attacker equals other dot do root, we gotta do transform dot root dot pick component character object. This is another one of the reasons why I have like a managed list, and maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll. I just like trying to get away from that when possible, because it can be kind of nice to not have to worry about like a. The list can be nice. It's kind of like being a micromanager. It's like kind of nice to like micromanage everything, but it also can be awful. So this is really slow. We're gonna hopefully work through it and find a better way to do this. So what we're doing is, we have that other collider that's coming in at us. So on trigger stay. So actually this is the attack box. So what we want to do, actually that's the victim, this is the other. And so we have one that's already set here, and we just set this, we have it on start. So character equals transform.root get component. So this is our character. We're a hitbox and we belong to a character. And so we set character as that. When we collide with something and it's not us, we set that and say, and actually if character hit active greater than 0, then we'll do the check. It'll save us a little bit of performance there. Do that victim and victim dot get hit, and we pass ourselves. Well, our hitbox's owner, I guess you could say. So again, have this on trigger stay that we set up already. And if it's not us, and if our character is hit active, then we find the character object within that victim object, the other collider, and we say, hey, get hit. Let's go to our character object, actually do attacker dot hit active equals 0. So this is where it can get a little messy. I know this is sort of bad programming, basically, because I don't do like getters and setters, and like I don't even know what they're for. It's like I saw there's a hashtag artist confessions the other day. That's one of my biggest ones. I don't know what getters and setters are for, because I can just set it here. Maybe it helps with boxing and things, which is like a garbage collection thing. I don't know. And you could probably do a method where in the attacker, you just do a method and then you reset all these variables and things. For now, we'll just do it like this. So hit active equals 0. That's going to make sure that it doesn't hit on every frame, because we want our attack to last a few frames just for game design reasons. But we don't want it to repeat. So we'll do hit active equals 0. This is actually bad, but for testing purposes, because what if we hit another enemy? Well, so we'll have to figure that out now, won't we? And I'm actually going to do a new way of doing that. In my old games, I basically keep a list of all the objects. Every time I do a new, so each character has a list of every other character, which is pretty brute forcey, but it was actually really fast. Like, it's fine because they're just flags, they're just bools. And every time I do a new attack, I reset that whole list to false. And if I hit one of those characters, then I set it to true. And if that flag isn't true, then we go ahead and get hit. But if it's already been hit, then we ignore it. But I'm going to try a new way of doing it. But we'll do this first. So go ahead and go in here. And if we do our attack, see, as soon as it lands, and it's not relative yet, so it's just doing at the global, it's hitting that direction. So now let's correct that. And I'm actually pretty happy that that worked. We could also implement a key component of any type of action game. Y'all know it, y'all love it. Hit pause. It's called hit stop a lot. I call it hit pause. It's the same thing. It's just a personal name that I've always used. So what we want to do then, go ahead and set that up real quick too. That's going to be a game engine variable. So this is going to be like a really global. Yeah, that'll be one of the things we update finally in our game engine. We do hit pause is greater than 0. Pause minus. And we get a successful hit. Go ahead and do game engine done. Actually, let's do set hit pause. Current attack dot hit pause. Back. What's wrong? Did I not save it? Oh, we need a static. Need a static. It shouldn't matter too much if we run into some issues. Let's check that real quick. Should be okay now. Yeah, because we need to be able to call that from anywhere. There's ways we could get around it, but this is good. The reason I have set hit pause is because something you'll run into a lot is if, and this is a personal preference thing, what I like to do is if value is greater than hit pause equals value. So I'm actually going to call that power. I don't know why it matters, but so that way it's like you do like a heavy hit and there's some, what happens is like what I've occurred in my own game is like you hit someone and it's like a counter hit or like a special type of hit. They're weak or something. And so you add extra hit pause to make it more intense. But on that same impact frame, you hit another enemy who was maybe even defending or something like that. And then the hit pause like goes down like to like nothing. And so that impact goes away. So what I like to do is do this set hit pause so that way it'll only set it to the new one if it's bigger than the current one. And we know that the current hit pause, is this okay even though it's static? That's okay. It's not mad. We go into our attack. And we actually haven't set that up yet. So now on our character object, just regular update. Where is that? Excuse me. Do I not have that? Oh, fixed update. Excuse me. So for now, basically all this, if game engine dot hit pause is less than or equal to 0, we'll do this stuff. There's going to be some things that maybe we want, maybe even update animation. In fact, for now, let's keep it outside. Well, no. So it's going to get a little tricky because then we're going to want to start, if our hit pause is happening, we're going to want to, slow down our animation, which we'll get to. But just for ease, right now, I'll go ahead and do this. And that's actually set our... So we're going to do vector 3, next, knockback equals... I forget, sorry. Unity, look, rotation. I forgot how to do it. This is actually exactly what we want. Is that what I want? I don't want a quaternion. I thought it was, bleh. What is it? Ready, look. I thought there was a look. I mean, I know I use a look group. I just multiply it. Oh my gosh, I was really hoping not to look at going here again, but whatever. So basically we want to rotate that knockback velocity to our characters facing. Rotation. I feel like it's going to be like that exact thing, but... Look, rotation. You just multiply it by the knockback? Okay. That's what I thought. It just didn't seem right. So we're going to do... let's call it target offset. Maybe not the best word. That's going to be our position. See who comes first. I forget. Some of these are really complicated. Well, here's the easy way of doing it. Oh, this is what I wanted anyway. Sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. This is the one I was looking for, but this is what I actually want. We just want transform.forward. So we look at our attacker.transform. Actually, it's attacker.character.transform.forward because we actually have some other stuff. And another reason for that is, go ahead and run Citadel Deep real quick. When we hit an enemy, let's go ahead and suplex this fool. We grab him, and we're suplexed in a slime. Their HUD doesn't rotate, which is what we want. So, I don't want to disappoint you. Boom. that's another reason why we have like this separate transformer for rotating things. Sorry, we're jumping around a lot. So basically, what? I know, it's, what am I missing here? Oh, gosh darn it. We don't need this quite yet. And so, next. Oh my gosh. I'm new to program. Not really. Next knockback equals turning it down. Look rotation. Next knockback times. Or do I need to do it the other way? Oh, I can just go right into it. Do I need this separate? Am I messing myself up here? Oh, I set the knob. Okay, let's see what I do. Go ahead and do that. I'm confusing myself. So, next knockback, and then knock orientation. I'm going to use the same parlance because I'm confusing myself here. So next knockback equals current attack dot knockback. Knock orientation equals character dot transform dot forward. This is where, you know, like if we want like a radial one, like there's like you punch the ground and like you want to knock back enemies relative to yourself, then that orientation would change. So next knockback equals quaternion dot look rotation, and is that the one that's the orientation? Yes. Times next knockback, and then we pass that next knockback to here. So what are we doing? Our next knockback, you know, it's just a local variable we can mess with. It's going to be our current attacks. We do not want to mess with our data's. It's read only. You know, so we grab that knockback and set it to a variable here. And then our orientation, you know, again, we're just going to do attacker.transform.forward, you know, the facing, and then we'll make more advanced ones later. And so we take that same variable, we do a look rotation, and so it starts with a quaternion, and it creates a quaternion based on a direction, a vector 3. And so we do our direction is the character transform.forward, and then we multiply it by next knockback, and that turns it back into a vector 3. I don't know why, but that's how it works. So, and then we pass that in here. Let's actually set that here. A little more sense. So now oops. I'm always jumping back and forth like that. Sorry. Go and we strike them. They go away from us. And by default, we face our velocity. So we're actually going to make some changes there. But already, that's pretty cool. It's pretty weak. Let's go ahead. Make it cooler than that. If we double it, it might, remember, things that don't really scale linearly. So this might be intense. Oh, it's not too bad. Our friction's pretty heavy. It's kind of different than what I normally do. And so that's going to be another thing. You may want to set custom frictions, which I do in Citadel Deep. Because you might want one where like the gravity changes a little bit. You know, they're more floaty. You might want one that really just sends them flying. Make it even cooler. And knock them up into the air a little bit. Boom. There we can see that the gravity did not. So these definitely don't correspond. we're used to. You can see the horizontal gravity is a lot different. So if we look at our slime, look at their friction. Actually, a lot different. So if we sort of make them the same, so now they're a little more about the same. But if we look at our player, and this is something we're going to want to make global in the future. Now her friction is really intense too, and so she's not really jumping anymore. Just something we'll need to mess with. Again, that's just the game design part of it. And keep it like that. So the next step is actually make a state out of it. So let's go to our character states and make a new state. Increase our size. We're going to make this, you can just call it hit stun. The length, we'll just make it 1 for now. Blend rate we'll change later. Go ahead and get rid of all the events. Here there's no attacks. In previous games, I kind of make it tied to the neutral state, and maybe we'll end up doing that anyway. In fact, maybe we could just do that. That way it's always 0. The reason for it is there's going to be a lot of similar stuff that happens in your neutral state when you're in hit stun. So let's just start with the things we know. Whoops. So we're going to have our hit stun, and we're going to make a new. I do this in almost all my games as well. Public void, getting hit. So after we're in hit stun, instead of doing all the normal stuff, we're going to be just looking at this instead. First thing is to lower that hit stun each frame. Pop this down here, doesn't matter too much. And so during fixed update, update state, go ahead and check that out. And so it's like, do we want to insert it here, or do we want to go ahead and make it a totally different thing? For now, we'll go ahead and just make it a totally different thing. So when we go here, if hit stun is greater than 0, we'll do we're getting hit. Else, we update our states as normal. Because we'll still want to update our input. We're actually going to need to fix that a little bit, because if we get hit and then just attack, we're going to be able to break out of it. We actually haven't even done that, like cancel speeds and things like that. Or, cancel timings and like when and how we can cancel out of certain states. Let me think. I mean, I guess we could do the animations. The part gets kind of slower and like meticulous. I guess that's the right word. Like fine detail type stuff, and I kind of just want to not do that yet. You could just give it a shot though, why not? So here's where maybe we want it to be its own state. If our current system has our state name in our data tied to our state name in our animator state machine, our Mecanum state machine. So that way the names just tie them together. So the way that we can just call this by default is whatever state we're in, we just call that that animation. So I suppose we could just do that for now. So we will go ahead, duplicate that. And I call it player controller, but we could just call it enemy controller. We're gonna, well, we could make it generic. Let's call it slime controller for now. We might be able to make this more generic in the future. We don't need these. And so instead we could go ahead and duplicate this. You can just do new state. But I want it from, we want it, well, let's go ahead and do that. So create state from new blend tree. And we'll just call it hits done. I make that mistake a lot where I skip that T. For default, we'll go ahead and make a 2D one. I have already, we're gonna need some new floats. Hit any X and hit any Y. Add a motion field. And of course, we set these to X and Y. So we did, we're doing a blend tree, and it's 2D. And based on, you know, what variables we pass here, we're gonna blend between a bunch of animations. And I say animation, but they're just single frames. And I have already made them. I made them last week. I have a bunch actually for this character. In Citadel Deep, there's tons of like hit states. Yeah, what I like to do is I guess it doesn't matter too much. What we want. Whoops. -1 0 1 0 0 0 -1 0 1. And it's slime idle is our neutral state right here in the middle. Getting hit to the left, you can just go, well, actually change the position. We'll do slime hit left, slime hit right, slime hit down. Oh, I call it mid. High. I don't know why it's like, just when I had clicked. Basically, it's going to blend between those. So we go to the left, if you see our animator here, I've already made these animations. We get to the left, go ahead and do that, and we'll actually blend into this state. So when we get hit, we're going to go ahead and make those animation variables. So here, well, gotta make those variables first, sorry. Get hit. Sorry, it was starting to get cool, and it's like, oh wait, we gotta do this first. Public float any X, any Y. So any X equals turn attack dot any dot X, any Y equals. I guess we could have made those vector 2s, but as well. That won't matter too much. And then when we animation animator.set float, whoops. Now we pass that through. to the animator. And when we actually enter hit stun, so these variables are going to be set. So in this sort of space, this is going to be set immediately, but then we will actually blend into this actual state. So we'll start at idle, and effectively, from whatever state we were in, there's an attack or a neutral state, we'll blend into this hit, which is pretty cool because we can be, in the middle of an attack and then actually blend into that hit. What I actually like to do is set it pretty far over here and then slowly blend into it like during the hit stun. And then when we come out, we just blend back into our neutral. So again, we get hit high, we get hit mid, left, right. So based on where we get hit, the animation changes and it makes it feel really cool. Call that hit stun. So now that I've done that, perhaps we should make it a separate state. Instead of like using the neutral state in here, we want to go ahead and use hit stun. We will still make the length 1. We're gonna, in our neutral, what's our blend rate? 0.2 is a good rate. Go ahead and use a similar one, maybe a tiny bit faster. 1.25. I don't know, we'll see. So now, sorry, I go back and forth between capitalizing hit stun like that or not. I don't know. But I gotta pick because it's gonna be universal. So that means we're gonna go ahead and please change how we do this. So instead of this, go ahead and update our state as normal. We'll still probably want that getting hit method. So when we get hit, this is the problem. I mean, it's not too bad, but because it'll be universal. But when we get hit, our current state will be one of the very first things we do. There might be exceptions, like actually there are going to be exceptions, so we'll go ahead and put this near the bottom. Exception would be like if we're guarding, so there's going to be like a get hit method that happens, but the things that happen are going to be a lot different. But if for sure we get hit, we'll break this up later. Our current state equals, and this is just going to be a magic number. We just know that it is 6. That's just an unfortunate part of it. It's not too bad because it's going to be universal, because these states are universal. This list is going to get giant once we have a lot more moves and a lot more enemies and stuff, but that's fine. So our current state equals 6. So that means we're in hit stun. And on that note, we can go ahead and make a new event if we wanted. Here's where it can get, because hit stun is such a special sort of state. This is where I'm kind of going back and forth. So let's go ahead and update state is what I was looking for. So we get hit, and then we do update state and character state. My current state equals our current state, which is going to be 6, which is always going to be hit stun. And we're still going to be updating this stuff. But we're going to have some exceptions. So I'm just trying to think. You almost always want to loop. We just make this a looping state. Make it 10 for now, just in case. It doesn't matter too much. Because our length is going to be dynamic in this case. This is why it breaks the conventions of the our normal state machine, and so I'm just trying to figure out the best way to make an exception. I just keep going back and forth. Maybe I should just make it. It's kind of nice having it its own state, and I kind of want to just figure that out, so sorry if this part's a little slow. Derivate events, update our attacks. So where are our scripts? So character scripts. Go ahead and make a new one of those too. And we'll call it getting hit, because that's what we called it already. And what one was that? 4. So we're getting hit instead. And that means we want it to actually add that event here. Getting hit. That showed up, which is great. Start and end. Beginning to end. And sorry, this is where I'm just like trying to decide. This all just seems like extra work for something that doesn't matter too much. We can still have it a separate state. I just wonder if this is just nonsense at the moment. We'll go ahead and leave it there, but I do believe that what is it? I think state. I just forget. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just put it here. We might even go back on this. Hit stun is greater than 0. Getting hit. Else do the rest like normal. So it's basically what we had before, but now it actually looks at the state. We'll see what happens. Hopefully this will just work. We may need to call one extra thing early. Yeah, I did not like that. State. Did I pick the wrong? Did I make it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Yeah, I did it. I knew that. Like when I typed it in, I was like, I don't think it's 6, buddy. And actually what we could do, I don't know, is this stupid? Am I dumb? Hit stun index. You could make that more of like a constant so you don't have this magic number floating in there. I don't know if it matters too much, but it might matter in other. But I mean, whenever you enter hit stun, you should be calling get hit, so that it's kind of the same thing. That worked. That's cool. Our animation isn't updating though, so we got to figure that out. Click on our dude, make sure he's actually in. Model. Oh, I never set the controller. Slime controller. Go ahead and update our prefab after doing that. Let's see what happens. Oh, so he is rotated for some reason. I do not know why. Just be a problem with the animators a lot of times. I hate this. This happens a lot. It's like Canem has some weird stuff. Sometimes you'll get stuff that like it'll scale out all weird when you're doing blending. I don't know what the answer is. Should be this avatar. Should be fine. Okay, this is just going to be a hack real quick, so we're just going to rotate it. This is why I have this offset. Let's rotate this one. Should just be this. Oh, they got stuck up there. That's fun. Not animating quite yet, though. They are mostly facing. You can see there's a little bit of an offset, which is bad. They're not actually facing the track direction they get hit, which is not good. I'm sorry. I don't know why this happens. Ugh, that's like extremely irritating. I'll just ignore it for now. Maybe it should just be this. But then it's not facing the right way. So why isn't the neutral's happening? Whoops. Go ahead and strike them. Have I set the hit stun on this attack? That might be the problem. I actually didn't need to hit. So that we can actually edit our data during runtime. Hit stun. Oh, I did. Well, God, I gotta do this again. Ooh, this is so irritating. This rotational thing, I don't know why it does that. And then, hey, I'm back. Okay. Click on our slime. Check our hit stun. Do I not set it over here? Is that the real problem? I don't. I can't believe I did that. Wow. Alright, cool. So, hit stun equals current attack dot hit stun. Whoa, excuse me. What? What? It's done. Oh, I misspelled it. I told you, dudes. Like, warned you about stairs, dog. Always do that. Told you. Oh, Lord. Okay. Still don't know how to fix this. It's really annoying. Okay. Still not getting set though, so. 50 frames. Check it out. Undelete 4. Did this not save? I'm a little confused. Oh, I renamed the variable, so it went to 0. One day we'll get this. Slime. Actually, oh, I did set the hit Annie. It's still not updating. We'll go ahead and animator. Color. We're still in neutral. Did I? No, I didn't. Our current state is 5, not 6. Oh, dang it. I always do that. We'll go open our character. It's done 52. It's counting down, which is great. Current state is 5, so we are in hit stun. You mean the Chaos Emeralds? So what we want to do actually start this state, which we never did. A lot of times you can have systems where it will just do that anyway. You could even have like a previous state and it would just update anyway. That's my bad. Start state. So to start state, set current state. Sure it does, but yeah. So not current state equals 5. Start state 5. I'm sorry, y'all. Get some little goofball mistakes. Well, that way our animator gets called to start a new animation state. And now they're upside down again. Why? That's the thing, man, with this like blending stuff. Like, I don't know why it does that. And this one's offset too? Like, what is your deal? Upside down now? Facing the right way now. So annoying, y'all. So, I'm actually, just for the sake of fun, I'm going to just dampen this a bit, just to save us some time. And then, gosh, now I really want this to just be, well, I guess it doesn't matter. For funsies. So we're just setting it to a random number in the range of -1 and 1. Make sure you put F in there for flow because it'll do an integer-based one if not. And I'm dampening the knockback a bit, so, and I could just do it in the actual attack. Yeah, it's done. Center equal to 0, then we will face velocity. And actually, when we get hit, we'll want to look at the target. We'll do that later. Starting to see how complicated this gets. What I wanted to do, just have a bit of a setup. This is so annoying, dudes. That each time we hit them, we have a new animation, and we're not blending into it very well. I don't know why that one was so similar. Oh, he blended out of it. Oh my god. Oof. Oof. So it is calling, it is looking at the player characters. Info. We set this up before, right? So this is the same thing. My run animations are just sort of, you know, he just sort of scoots forward. Well, that's his idle state, but okay. Okay, we're starting to actually get somewhere. I forgot to set those. My bad. So now they'll be hanging out and they'll have a neutral state, which needs to set to loop, which is not. For some reason, I thought those are already set. This one I imported that it didn't set. So slime idle, we want to be loop. The hit ones we don't necessarily, because we're doing single frame, so it doesn't matter too much. But run we would like loop as well. apply those. It's going to take a minute because there's so many animations. Have a little cashew while we wait. So now they'll hang out. When they're in hit stun, we don't face our velocity anymore. And we need to come out. Whoa, phone again, sorry. I know everyone's like getting robocalls, but lately, this one calls me almost 10 times a day, and it's the same number. Usually it's like these random numbers. It's really annoying. So they weren't coming out of hit stun. But I felt like update state should handle that anyway. I don't know, because end state isn't happening. So go ahead and make that. Hit stun. Less than or equal to 0. End state. We're still not blending into the hit still. I don't. It's a little redundant. A couple redundant stills. Making it really long. I don't think that's the issue. Something else is happening. Yeah, but it doesn't loop too well. Looks like I could fix that up a little bit. Maybe a little bit too extreme for just an idle animation, but alright. Oh, maybe it is blending into it. I actually want to reduce that knockback entirely, just so we can kind of make it the same as our attack. Just kind of go ham and see some stuff. So yeah, it doesn't look like it's blending quite yet. Let's make it so we face when we get hit. So this is going to be a preference. I generally have them face you when you get hit, but you may like it where you hit someone like in the back of the head and they like stumble forward. Just for the type of games I make, like to see that hit happen. I'm slashing them and I just see them get hit in the face. If there's characters that can ignore hit stun for whatever reason, then you'll like not have that happen. What is that called? Gosh darn it. Face velocity. I swear I typed that in. Whatever. Oh, I do that so often. Boop, 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 boop. Should probably make a script. I just don't know. Face target. Let's be target position. Gonna be is target position minus our position. Get hit, and we will go ahead and face target. And that's going to be the attackers. Excuse me. Just went down position. I'm actually going to want to zero out the. Get it here. Ugh, gonna get kind of annoying, but. I guess we could do 3 target offset. y equals 0, and then offset. That's easy. So we don't actually want them to look up unless we have a flying enemy. But for default, we kind of just want that lateral rotation. So hopefully, kind of blending in. So it's pretty cool. They're only blending into it when they're already in that state, or when they're not in that state. So when they're in neutral, they blend into it, and it's kind of blending way too slow. So let's go ahead, put a hits done, 0.1, see how that looks. So that looks all right. Getting fun. And again, it's randomized just so we can have some dramatic changes as we beat on this dude. Go ahead and go to this attack. Maybe too much. Get better. Oh yeah, because I do 0.4 and then 0.3, so it can actually. No, it's like the same attack over and over, but. So, a few things we can do. It's nice that the looking is working okay. One of the things is that it's not blending into it. So, you gotta think. I know why it's happening. I thought it was actually a bug, but I'm understanding it better now. Because we're already in that state, we don't, even though we're crossfading into it, it's like we're already in that state, but we almost want our blends to we want these values to blend. Do you know what I'm saying? Because what's happening is that just when we do start state, set animation, whoops, I always do that. Just F12. We crossfade. We're just crossfading through here. We're not crossfading here. And so it's actually going to be a little bit complicated for us to determine how to crossfade between these. I mean, one way is have like or hit any X and then have like a target hit any X and Y. So let's try that. It's another reason to make these vector 2s. So we're going to go ahead and do that. X. A little bit of cleanup to fix that. The reason is because now we're going to want to blend these as well, not just crossfade our states like I mentioned. And this will make it easier. So I wonder if there's a way to do that in Mecanum. I don't know. Because we're crossfading into that same state, we don't get that blend. I'm repeating myself here, sorry. We need a way to do that. I mean, what I do in my current game is that they kind of go back to neutral. And I was going to do that anyway, so let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go into getting hit. And so we do want to make sure we do. Okay. Current hit any. Go ahead and rename it to that. Then we're going to do target Annie. And so for a sort of basic way we could do it, we make our target right here, and then our current going to equal our target times 0.5. This won't look quite good. Who knows? It might look pretty good. So we're going to have a target animation, but we're going to start about halfway there. And then during getting hit, we're going to blend into it. We're going to have our own little method for doing that. So current hit any x plus equals current hit any, or I said x, but excuse me, target hit any minus current times a blend rate. So what's happening is it's taking the difference. If we did this at 1, it would happen in 1 frame, right? Current hit any plus equal the difference, and so it's going to equal it the same. But by going like this, you can do like a nice blend, and I do this a lot, this sort of blending method. So, you know, we're kind of approaching 0, so we're never, you know, it's that dilemma, the so-and-so's something something, where it's like if you go halfway there, and then halfway there, do you ever get there? But it's a nice little animation thing. So now we have our own blend, like when we're in the getting hit state, go ahead and do our own little blend with these. And maybe there is a way to do it just built in with Mechanic, but we'll see how this looks. We hit them. It's kind of a fade in there, which is nice. Looks pretty good just by itself. Maybe make that blend a little bit different, but now if we hit them, not working too well. Part of the reason is because some of these values are really weak. One thing we could do though is just tweak it, and it would be nice if we could tweak this at runtime, but also have it be global. That's one of the just sort of a common Unity thing. So we'll start actually not that much into the hit stun, and then we'll actually blend. This might look way soft. We're going to blend a lot slower as well. Do that and just see how it looks. It looks okay. It's still something we could. Some weird settling going on too, just based on how this blend works over here. If we had attacks that weren't so random, it would look better. I guess just trust me on that. It's just that we're getting some of these kind of in between, because it's random. Some of these in between values are just a little whack. And so what I like actually is for maybe the blend to be a lot faster. But starting at this is kind of nice. And blending faster. And the reason is when we have the hit pause, we're going to want like a little bit of like hit animation happening already. And then we want to slowly blend into it. And we could actually change this blend based on the hit stun. That way we're kind of always like fading into it. It just might be a little too slow. If you have like a really long hit stun move, it might not look so hot. You'd have to just mess with that. Wow, like a bunch of low hits in a row. That's actually looking pretty cool. One way we can make that look better is to really reduce that hit stun. We probably don't need 60 frames for such a fast attack. Even do like 20. I'm actually going to go ahead and go to this other attack. Actually make an attack. We're going to do it the opposite of this. So the hit any. 1, 1. Make the knockback the same. I'm going to go ahead and just copy that hitbox as well. Even though we did all that work earlier to like set up the hitbox tools, it basically just needs to be about the same. Hit pause. We don't have that implemented yet, but I'll go ahead and make a slight hit pause. Hit stun again, 20. 30 is probably going to be better. 30 tends to be nice. We'll start. How long is this? Same thing. I had this other attack here. Oh, it's still random. I forgot. But that's looking pretty cool, right? Go ahead and remove the randomization. Actually want this to be the target again. Take a look at how that looked. Still going to be kind of boring because they're going to... And you can have little variants. If you have an attack that... Or you have a game that maybe you're not using too many different attacks, do this instead. You do plus equals. And usually what I do, I check which one is farther away from 0, the X or the Y. And then I put the variance on the one that is lower. Do you know what I mean? Like is closer to 0. So that way if our hit animation is like up and down like a bunch, and then just like off to the right a little bit, I put the variance in the left to the right. That way, you know, the main motion isn't lost too much. But we're going to go ahead and just do just a little bit. And oh, we did implement that. Did pause just not working? Did they just not have it set? The hit pause. Oh. Oh my god. Hold on. Oh no, I set it to the right thing. Okay. I thought maybe I was using a local variable, but it's pretty much working. You just are really set really low. Set them high to make sure it's even working. Yeah, it's kind of working, but the animation isn't stopping. And here's where you're going to have like lots of exceptions. You may just want to slow time during that time. Do we even have our animation speed variable? We don't. So we're going to want that too. So again, it just gets more and more complicated. That's one we're probably going to want though. So any speed. And we're going to need that on our player and our slime. This is sort of one of the downfalls of... Downfalls, strong word. Annoyances of Mechanum. You know, you can create some sort of like a base thing here. Basically what I'm getting at is just duplicating this over is going to be a good idea for each time you have a new character. You can already tell how that's kind of like hacky, even that's kind of how it's sort of set up to work. It's a little weird. I don't really have to worry about her hit stun quite yet. We'll just do a really quick one. Even though it's a 2D one, I just haven't set it up yet, just to save time. But on all of these, we're going to want a speed multiplier, and we're going to use anti-speed. And it's kind of nice that you can go through and do it on all of them. You know, multiple object edit. default, we want our anti-speed to be 1. We're gonna need that. And we maybe want to call it like anytime or something like that. Again, Annie is our sort of internal naming convention. And then, based on different things, like if it's done, excuse me, image.hitPause is greater than 0, and our Annie speed equals 0. And if we really wanted to get clever, we would set this early, and we would, like as we set the hit pause, then we would set an Annie speed, and it would be like a division of, well, heck, I guess we could try it. It just might not even look that good after all that work. Basically, like when we call GameEngine.set hit pause, we would have a new variable. It would be like an Annie, global Annie speed, and we would just divide the hit pause that we set. We divide 1 by that, and then we would have a speed to blend through, and we would go slow-mo through that that hit pause timing instead. And if this looks horrible, maybe we'll just try that. Whoops, got one thing. Gotta set it. Annie speed. Again, you might have like a global sort of time scale and things like that. Some of that's built into Unity, but you'd want to have your own. And then you'd have like a personal Annie speed based on different variables, and then finally have, take into account like some global things, and then finally apply it to your animation. Send that variable to your animation. So now, doesn't seem to be working. I don't know why. Let's see. Is it because we're doing crossfade? Does it kind of force it? Annie speed? Did I spell Annie speed? Huh. I wonder if it is because of the crossfade. Oof. That'd be something I'm not really equipped to handle. We're cutting through there anyway. Let's go ahead and check our player, see what the issue might be. Annie speed equals 1, which should not be the case. So, is this being called wrong? So, there's no hit pause. Animation isn't being called, so we still want to update our animation, but we have since slowed it internally inside that method, because we're going to have some exceptions to that a little bit. So we can see that impact is maybe a little bit late. They animate a little bit, so we may not want that. See how it blends during the hit pause? Sometimes that can be nice. But it looks a little whack. And if we really, that hit pause is really extreme. Probably start that on frame 9 instead, and then just have like a shorter hit pause. It's a little snappy, like in a bad way still. That's just a game feel thing we're gonna have to work on. I'm not sure why that feels so weird. And I feel like it's because blending into this or crossfading. Try that real quick, see if it looks any better. That's another thing that you may want to change based on like the timing of like your hit pause, like sort of this sort of starting. A little weird. Just a little strange that like it blends through. I think it's because we're crossfading during the hit pause. So that's something we might want to. You'll just have to figure out. Get rid of it. It looks better without it currently. I mean, it can look awesome. And when you have visual effects, I was hoping to get into today too to close it out. Actually hoping for, maybe we could make, even though this animation's pretty shitty, I was hoping to get into, I don't know how long I've been streaming. Feels pretty long, yeah, 3 hours. Hoping to get going a little faster than that. Actually, I'll have the attack impact for this one. So, what I was getting at eventually, in that roundabout way, is that too much. They have like a bit of a launcher. And so we can go up there. Please cancel. Sorry, the input's still fudged up. It's like I'm missing. Oh man, those animation blends are pretty nice though. That slime. Oh, we don't jump very high. That's kind of the problem too. I was like, well, this is working very well. And I was hoping to do like an aerial tech. We'll get that next time. Hoping to just close it out real quick with like a the visual effect, but I just we've gone on a long time. We've covered a lot. That's almost badass, but not quite. Let's see if we can. Just real quick. Add an event. From beginning to end. There we go. So, we're starting to get there. And if we like, we can relaunch. Ooh, we're making video games now. All right, that's fun. Sorry, I had this other big slime just because it's fun to scale them up. They're kind of floating a bit. What I would want is to make either a new method or have a parameter here that detects if we're in the air. Because right now, it's just when I do this attack, we just we float no matter what. It's kind of pulling us off the ground when we're on the ground. Don't want. Maybe try this. Oh, and if it's velocity equals 1, yeah, that's not gonna matter. We could even make it 0. That's the other thing. We'd want to change it. I mentioned before, a lot of these scripts we want to have operators too. That way we can do plus velocity if we wanted. Sorry, the input's still fudged up. Like I am hammering on some of these buttons and it's just not, nothing's coming out. Oh, we're getting there. I really, okay, now I'm like reinvigorated, so maybe I'll do some hit effects, but. She's not attacking, it's really pissing me off. Let's see there, she's attacking a bunch. Kind of whiffing. I don't know why she won't jump out of that. And then you can see, like, if they're in the air, we may want to make it so there's a bit of, you know, so for this basic, this initial attack we had, maybe 0.2, knocks them up just a little bit. And then see, it was a lot easier to juggle it in that case. Or you can make it so if they're in the air, that changes. Or if your aerial attacks are just going to have different properties. It's going to depend. In Citadel Deep, it's pretty... In a lot of character action games, once you knock someone down, they're kind of in a different hit stun. And so when you hit them, and in fighting games, the properties are different. It's like when they're aerial, they almost always get knocked up anyway. I don't quite do it like that, but it can be really nice. And it can look better because, this grounded hit stun, hit animations look good. But like when they're in the air, you may want some different animations. And I have that in Citadel Deep. It's just doesn't quite work. I don't know. What I'm saying is it'll depend on your game. Sorry, this is fun. I really wish that hit pause worked a little bit better. I've been streaming so long, but I really would like to make just like a hit effect really quick. Maybe I'll just stop the stream and then start it back up, so it's 2 separate videos. It'll just be a quick video. Since it's a topic I cover a lot on the channel anyway. But we'll go ahead and implement it in game. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop the stream now. Thank you all so much. If you don't continue on to the next one. Support's been wonderful. Tons of new YouTube followers, which is great. Please let me know if you have any questions. This project will be made available for download. You can just grab it up and mess with it yourself. Though you don't have to mess with the code yourself if you don't want to, or you're just a beginner. If you can spare $1 a month at patreon.com/Culture Attack, it would mean a lot to me. Yeah, but the support continues to grow and it's awesome, and I like doing the videos. It helps me learn. What am I trying to say here? Did I do the camera in one of the videos? I feel like I've implemented this camera and I didn't actually do it in a video. I have to go back and check. Sorry about that. I did some stuff in between when I was gonna stream last week anyway. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm also at Twitter, at Culture Attack. Y'all are wonderful. Thank you so much. I will be back today. We're just going to do a quick hit effect, but for the sake of this video, catch you later.